You think the danger in your life always comes with a warning. You think enemies announce themselves. But they don't. The greatest attacks are rarely loud. They are quiet, they smile, they wait. And if you have been feeling pressure, confusion, strange resistance, or an unexplainable heaviness around your life, stop dismissing it as coincidence. There are moments when you are not dealing with random problems. You are dealing with opposition. And the first mistake you can make is pretending that everything and everyone around you has good intentions. Listen carefully. Not everybody celebrating you is happy for you. Not everybody standing near you is standing with you. And not every smile means peace. You have spent too much time believing that if you remain good, everyone else will remain good too. But life does not work like that. Reality does not reward blindness. Reality rewards awareness. If this message speaks to something you have already felt deep inside, subscribe to this channel. Not because numbers matter. Not because anyone needs your validation. Subscribe because you need reminders. You need truth. You need a voice that refuses to lie to you. Because the world has enough distractions and enough comforting stories. You need clarity, you need perspective, you need reminders that wake you up instead of putting you back to sleep. Here is what this really means. The threat against your life is not always physical. Most of the time, it is spiritual, emotional, psychological. It is distraction, it is manipulation. It is the slow attempt to disconnect you from your purpose and make you forget who you are. And that is exactly why so many chosen people suffer unnecessary pain. Not because they are weak, not because they are cursed. Because they are asleep, because they trust everybody, because they explain away red flags, because they confuse kindness with the absence of boundaries. That is called self-betrayal. Read that again inside your spirit. Self-betrayal. You ignore what you know. You silence your instincts. You tolerate disrespect. You explain bad behavior. You give access to people who have not earned it. And then you wonder why peace disappears. Peace disappears when protection disappears. You think love means unlimited access. Wrong. Love without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Respect without standards becomes slavery. Compassion without wisdom becomes foolishness. You were never called to be weak. You were never called to say yes to everything. You were never called to carry everybody. Some people do not want your growth. Some people do not want your healing. Some people do not want your peace. And that truth makes people uncomfortable because they want to believe everybody means well. Everybody does not. Some people envy what they cannot become. Some people resent what they cannot control. Some people attack what they secretly admire. That is why the strongest attacks often come disguised as concern. Have you noticed it? The strange negativity, the hidden criticism, the constant discouragement, the subtle attempts to make you smaller. The jokes that are not really jokes, the advice that leads nowhere. The energy that leaves you exhausted. Nothing is random. Pay attention, because awareness is protection. The problem is that you have been taught to fear being alone. You have been taught that losing people means failure, but what if losing the wrong people is actually freedom? Think about it. Why are you afraid to disappoint those who constantly disappoint you? Why are you protecting people who never protect you? Why are you sacrificing your peace for people who sacrifice nothing? Why? Because somewhere along the way, you learned to confuse being needed with being loved. That is called emotional addiction. An addiction always costs you something. It costs your focus. It costs your confidence. It costs your purpose. It costs your self-respect. You stop listening to yourself. You stop trusting yourself. You stop choosing yourself. You stop, and little by little you disappear. But something inside you knows this message is not an accident, because you have felt it. You have sensed things changing. You have sensed distance. You have sensed resistance. You have sensed strange attacks on your mind, and perhaps you blamed yourself. Perhaps you questioned yourself. Perhaps you wondered if you were becoming too sensitive. No, you are becoming aware. There is a difference. Sensitivity without wisdom creates fear. Awareness with wisdom creates power. And power begins with seeing reality for what it is. Not what you hope it is. Not what you wish it was. Reality, because reality heals. Fantasy destroys. Hope without truth is delusion. Truth without hope is despair. But truth with purpose creates transformation. Look at the man who cannot be manipulated. Look at him carefully. He is not loud. He is not desperate. He is not seeking approval. He is not chasing validation. He walks with peace because he knows who he is. He does not argue with everyone. He does not explain himself to everyone. He does not beg for understanding. He does not chase people who walk away. He does not fear silence. He respects it. He understands something most men never understand. Access is earned, trust is earned, loyalty is earned, and his presence is not cheap. His time is not cheap. His peace is not cheap because he paid for that peace with experience. He paid for that peace with betrayal. He paid for that peace with heartbreak. He paid for that peace with loneliness. And because he paid the price, he refuses to give it away to people who have done nothing but drain him. That man is grounded. That man has purpose. That man has standards. That man does not need everyone to understand him, because he understands himself, and that changes everything. Because when you understand yourself, manipulation loses power, fear loses power, opinions lose power, and suddenly the attacks that once destroyed you become the very things that strengthen you, because you finally understand something powerful. Not everybody deserves access to you. Not everybody deserves explanations. Not everybody deserves another chance, and protecting your peace is not selfish. It is wisdom. You need to understand something most people spend their entire lives refusing to face. The greatest damage rarely begins with one big betrayal. It begins with small compromises, small excuses, small moments where you knew something was wrong, but you ignored it because you wanted peace more than truth. And that is dangerous, because peace built on denial is not peace. It is avoidance. You think keeping everyone comfortable makes you a good person? But tell me something. How many times have you made yourself uncomfortable just to avoid making others uncomfortable? How many times have you stayed silent when you should have spoken? How many times have you ignored disrespect because you were afraid of conflict? How many times have you called something love when it was really dependency? Think about that. Because the enemy against your purpose does not always attack you through violence. Sometimes it attacks you through guilt. Guilt, that feeling that says you owe everybody something. That feeling that says saying no makes you selfish. That feeling that says boundaries make you cold. That feeling that says your needs do not matter. That is called conditioning. And conditioning is powerful because it makes you fight against yourself. No enemy needs to destroy a man who destroys himself. No enemy needs to confuse a man who refuses to trust himself. No enemy needs to weaken a man who constantly gives away his strength. You do it for them, and you call it kindness. But kindness without discernment becomes self-neglect. You have been available to everybody and unavailable to yourself. You answer everybody's calls, but you ignore your own soul. You fight everybody's battles, but you abandon your own mission. You rescue everybody, but you leave yourself drowning. And then you wonder why life feels empty, because purpose cannot survive where self-respect is absent. Read that again. Purpose cannot survive where self-respect is absent. That is why some people become uncomfortable when you change. Not because they hate you, because your growth threatens the version of you they benefited from, the old version. The people pleaser, the over-explainer, the one who tolerated everything, the one who apologized for existing, the one who accepted crumbs and called it love, the one who sacrificed himself to keep everyone else comfortable. They miss that version, but that version was dying, and deep inside you know it, because every time you betrayed yourself, something inside you became quieter. Every time you ignored your instincts, something inside you weakened. Every time you accepted disrespect, something inside you suffered. And eventually, you started losing yourself. That is the real danger, not losing people, losing yourself. Because when you lose yourself, you become easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to distract, easy to break. And there are people who benefit from that version of you. People who need you confused, people who need you insecure, people who need you desperate, people who need you seeking their approval because your independence threatens their control. Your confidence threatens their influence. Your peace threatens their chaos. That is why growth often feels lonely. Because growth reveals, growth exposes, growth separates, and separation is painful, but pain is not always punishment. Sometimes pain is protection. Sometimes pain is God removing what comfort refused to release. Think about that. What if the people who walked away were not losses? What if the opportunities that disappeared were not punishments? What if the delays that frustrated you were actually protection? Because not every closed door is rejection. Sometimes it is rescue. You cry over what left, but you do not realize what stayed could have destroyed you. You beg for things that would have broken you. You chase people who would have emptied you. You demand answers when silence itself was the answer. And that is why wisdom matters, because wisdom sees beyond emotions. Emotions say chase. Wisdom says wait. Emotions say react. Wisdom says observe. Emotions say explain yourself. Wisdom says silence is enough. And silence scares weak people. Have you noticed that? Weak people demand explanations. Strong people observe actions. Weak people seek attention. Strong people seek purpose. Weak people react emotionally. Strong people respond intentionally. There is a difference, and that difference changes destinies. Look at the man who has mastered himself. He is not obsessed with revenge. He does not spend nights plotting against enemies. He does not waste years trying to prove himself. He does not chase validation. He does not beg for recognition, because he understands a truth that most people never understand. His energy is too valuable. His attention is too valuable. His peace is too valuable. And he guards those things like treasure. He wakes up with purpose. He trains his mind. He protects his body. He watches his words. He controls his emotions. He respects his time. He values his mission. He understands that discipline is not punishment. Discipline is freedom, because discipline protects you from becoming a slave to your feelings. Feelings change. Truth does not. Moods change. Purpose does not. Opinions change. Character does not. And character is built when nobody is watching. Not when everybody is clapping. Anybody can act strong when life is easy. Anybody can smile when everything goes their way. Anybody can speak about faith when there is no storm. But who are you when nobody understands you? Who are you when support disappears? Who are you when the applause stops? Who are you when the loneliness comes? That is where men are built. Not in comfort, in adversity, not in praise, in resistance, not in ease, in struggle. And maybe that is why you have been under pressure. Not because you are forgotten, not because you are cursed, not because you are losing, because pressure reveals strength. Pressure exposes weakness. Pressure builds character. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Steel is forged through fire. And men of purpose are built through adversity. Stop asking why life is hard. Ask what life is teaching. Stop asking why people betrayed you. Ask what betrayal revealed. Stop asking why you feel alone. Ask what solitude is preparing. Because nothing is wasted, not the heartbreak, not the disappointments, not the tears, not the sleepless nights, not the betrayal, not the loneliness, nothing. Everything becomes fuel when purpose is stronger than pain. And that is where many people fail. They make pain their identity. They make betrayal their personality. They make disappointment their excuse, and they remain trapped. But you are not called to live trapped. You are called to rise, not through anger, not through revenge, through transformation, through discipline, through clarity, through purpose. So hear me carefully. Stop chasing people. Stop explaining yourself. Stop trying to save everyone. Stop proving your worth. Stop abandoning yourself. Redirect that energy. Build your mind. Strengthen your body. Protect your spirit. Control your attention. Guard your peace. Choose your circle carefully. Pray deeply. Work quietly. Move wisely. And remember this: not every battle deserves your presence. Not every opinion deserves your response. Not every attack deserves your energy. Sometimes winning means walking away. Sometimes power means silence. Sometimes strength means saying no. And sometimes the greatest protection is distance. Because distance reveals everything. Distance reveals loyalty. Distance reveals intentions. Distance reveals character. Distance reveals truth, and truth is a gift, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because pain that reveals truth saves you from destruction. And destruction always begins with ignoring what you already know. Deep inside, you know who drains you. You know what distracts you. You know what habits are weakening you. You know what conversations poison your mind. You know you have always known. The question is not whether you know. The question is whether you will finally listen.